Hello everyone, this is Crota now giving you game number 3 here on Last Refuge. And first thing I wanted to say, I'm sorry Carl, you're from Germany, not from Denmark. My bad. Yeah, I looked back at the donation, I'm like, ugh. Well, anyways, thank you. I mentioned you twice, as we are now going into game number 3, FQQ, now speedy building his Altar of Kings on the bottom left-hand side of the map. Meanwhile, on the top right, Yumiko actually switching things up and going for Orc. Now, I'm not exactly sure why he went for Orc this time around, but yes, he is going for Orc, so this is going to be a human versus Orc matchup instead of the human versus human matchups we've seen in the previous 2 games. Now, this may be because that FQQ seems to have a very good understanding of the human versus human matchup, and he really approached his opponent Yumiko with a strategy that Yumiko didn't quite know how to deal with. Now, by purposely changing up his race, he may be relying on the fact that Yumiko, may be relying on the fact that he is the stronger player and knows these matchups just a bit better. Now, taking a look down over here, Archmage is being trained up, and we can also see that there is no barracks. This means that we are most likely going into that very, very fast Griffin strategy that we saw in game number 1. Now, that Griffin strategy in game number 1 does work extremely well against Orc players because of these Orc burrows. Orc burrows are, as you know, the farms of the Orc army, but they also have this heavy armor. Their damage reduction, even though it does have an armor of 5, is completely negated by the fact that it is a heavy type armor, meaning that magic damage deals a lot of damage to it. Now, instead of going for that Blizzard strategy that he went on in game 1, it looks like he's going to be going for the typical creeping Archmage, which makes a lot of sense because the Archmage is not really going to be able to Blizzard down any units on an Orc army. All you have to do is just hide those units in an Orc burrow. Meanwhile, we see a Farseer. Alright, so I do not remember the last time I saw a Farseer versus Archmage matchup, maybe back in Reign of Chaos days, when you actually saw that regularly, as the Archmage now makes his way off to the north. Now, the Farseer has not spotted his opponent and has not really done any creeping as of yet. The Archmage could easily try and creep out this creep camp off over here, or even this green creep camp, to try and get to level 2. If he can do that, that would put him very, very much ahead, as the Archmage is just pretty much wasting time, as we are now upgrading the Stronghold. Alright, is Yumiko actually going to turn things around by purposely going for a different strategy? If he actually goes instead for Wind Riders, he may actually be able to jump the gun on his opponent, since Wind Riders are just that much faster. Alright, let's take out this Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler looks like it will get taken down here. Archmage should be able to get to level 2. Farseer is trying to get there in a hurry, and it looks like it will be able to do exactly that, but he is significantly delayed. So far, the Water Elemental is now trying to finish off, get some even more kills, as the Archmage is at level 2, picks up Gauntlets of Ogre Strength, but it looks like the Water Elementals were not able to finish off the creep camps, and the Farseer is now on the board with some experience. So far, though, I don't see a Lumber Mill coming in from Yumiko, which is the necessary next step, so to speak, for Yumiko to really have the proper counter. So far, the Water Elemental just slowly inching its way over to the Orc burrow here. Is it going to be able to take anything down? I'm not 100% sure, as the Archmage now looking to back off. You can see that the keep is about halfway done, and what we could see is a very, very quick tech to tier 3 double Griffin Aviaries, and also a Beastmaster. Beastmaster is extremely effective when your opponent is trying to build buildings. Excuse me. When your opponent is trying to build buildings, because of that additional piercing damage. Archmage now running back off to the north, not quite sure what he's doing with that Water Elemental back over here. The Water Elemental was dropped, and it's not going to even get off a single attack, it appears, as the keep is now teching the tier 2. Are we going to perhaps go to tier 3 at any moment? That's what I'm looking for. There is no dual Arcane Sanctums. Alright, so he is completely foregoing Footman, going for the Beastmaster, and he's going to go Archmage Beastmaster Casters. This is your typical strategy, save for those footmen. No footmen, making it very, very difficult. And what we're going to end up having is a lot of sorceress on the field trying to slow down and shut down grunts. Yes, sorceress do counter grunts extremely well, since grunts are rather slow melee units. But what is happening now? Coming in from the back, the Farseer are now trying to engage, but this war of elementals and summons really going in favor of Yumiko, as Yumiko gets to level 2 because it does have home field advantage. Alright, this water elemental most likely will get taken down. Farseer just going to be backing off here. Arcane Sanctums are already done, but no farm. Alright, this was a huge mistake by FQQ. It really felt like he sped built these Arcane Sanctums, but by not keeping track of his supply, these Arcane Sanctums are here and they're not training anything. That is a huge mistake. If he's not training anything off of those Arcane Sanctums, why even bother to get them? All right, let's go ahead and get the Orc Burrows well defended once more. It looks as though the Water Elemental is going to be forced to back off, and FQQ is not executing this game plan well at all. Tauren Chieftain now going to be coming out. Tauren Chieftain with Shockwave. If we actually see a chain wave strategy, that would actually be the perfect counter to the mass caster strategy, unless we see a lot of spell breakers. Sorceress now being trained, 4 of them. So the chain wave strategy is chain lightning plus shock wave together with the Tauren Chieftain and the Farseer. It is a rather deadly strategy, since it does a lot of almost instantaneous damage that can really not get healed or counter healed all that quickly. Oh, wow, okay. Now, coming back off to the north, you can see that the Farseer is attempting to clear out this creep camp. This creep camp will end up getting taken down. Farseer sitting at level 1. Tauren Chieftain will continue to sit at level... Or, sorry, Farseer at level 2. Tauren Chieftain continuing to sit at level 1. As we're looking at the Archmage, the Beastmaster, and the Sorceress, with Militia now doing their very strong push. All right, we see the push off to the north, and they are going to be meeting here right in the center. How are these two armies going to engage against each other, and what is the overall strategy? Archmage really needs to put forth a lot of pressure, and a beautiful move by Yumiko, purposely aggroing the creeps to try and get a war on both fronts. The Militia actually getting caught up onto those creeps there, as the Sorceress, do a little bit of slowing, but because of the speed scroll, it is completely countered. Guard towers are now trying to be constructed. Those are going to get countered and taken down extremely quickly. The shockwave doesn't hit a lot of units there, as the creep camp still aggroing very far. The Militia, or the peasants, should really be trying to repair these scout towers, and it looks like Yumiko is in a very good spot with Kodo Beasts, Troll Headhunters. He does have to counteract all of this slowed though, and that is going to be the main problem. Peasants massively repairing this guard tower. The guard tower down to 100 some odd hit points. It may not be able to stay up, as all the units are attempting to take it down. There it does go, and it looks as though FQQ, his rush is going to be stopped a little bit short. That brilliant move by Yumiko by aggroing the creeps to really pull back the Militia, have them take more damage, have units get ensnared, bought him enough time to get into position, and that really was the big difference here. All right, Water Elementals now continuing to move their way forward. There are plenty of Kodo Beasts. A Beastmaster looks like it gets taken down at level 1. Tauren Chieftain may pick up Endurance Aura, or should be picking up Endurance Aura. There it goes, and they will be able to give chase just a little bit. All right, Tauren Chieftain going after the units. There goes a Sorceress. Another Sorceress may get taken down. All right, there goes another one, and this is just not looking good at all for Yumiko, or for FQQ. Yumiko at 48 supply, FQQ sitting at 29. A guard tower gets taken down. Farseer now sitting at level 3, and the Farseer could easily just chase down even these priests down off over here. Now, we are going to be starting to see some momentum go the other way. I'm surprised to see that the Farseer is not... Oh, nope, there you go. There is the Archmage there. I was going to say the Farseer is not healing himself, but because the army is still there close enough to engage, they don't really want to go into any serious fight. All right, there's an ensnare. Farseer now attempting to back off down to 73 hit points, and it looks like it is now down to 43, 45. Use of the Scroll of Town Portal there, and the Archmage is now going to try to make its way over, but I believe the Farseer... Where is the Farseer? Oh, Farseer picks up a Potion of Healing just in time. uses it, and is now in the clear. All right, we should perhaps be seeing a healing salve and a clarity potion used in just a moment. There goes the water elemental. Tauren Chieftain sitting at level 2. Farseer sitting at level 3. Meanwhile, the Archmage being forced to retreat all the way back home at level 3. And this is just not a good place to be in. Down in supply, down in heroes, down by 20 supply. And that's pretty much, you are down by half the army at this point because of the amount of units you have harvesting and collecting. Scroll of the Beast has been dropped. It looks as though the Tauren Chieftain will be able to cast Roar on all of his units. No, did he sell it? Yes, he just decided to sell it. Perhaps going to pick up a Scroll of Healing instead, which would make a lot more sense just to try and mitigate some of that damage. No, not going to even bother to do that. And where is that Farseer? Farseer now coming back together. Potion of Mana now on that Tauren Chieftain. Clarity Potion now being used on the Tauren Chieftain. Farseer and Tauren Chieftain are both going to have a lot of mana, and that means a whole bunch of dead Sorceress and dead Priest. All right, let's take a look at this. Priest and Sorceress now engaging a little bit here. Back and forth they go. Let's take a look at it. Water Elemental getting taken out as the Kodo Beasts are now lining up for this next attack. Farseer is in position. Tauren Chieftain is in position as well. Are we going to get a Shockwave? And it looks like he's trying to get in position. Has not been able to do so yet, as the creeps are now actually in the way of Yumiko. Yumiko actually in a little bit of a bad spot here, being forced to engage these creeps. And are we going to see this Shockwave? I haven't even seen it yet. This is actually a perfect location for it before the Spellbreakers just deplete all of that mana. All right, there you go. There was another attack there. And so far, the Tauren Chieftain actually focusing a little bit too much onto the High Priest. There is a Book of the Dead being left behind, but with the Priest there, with their Dispelled Magic, you do not want to feed experience to your opponent. All right, there goes one Raider as it gets taken down. Raiders, Spellbreakers now trying in for an engagement. Tauren Chieftain gets off another Shockwave. There it goes, dealing a good amount of damage to all those units. Tauren Chieftain now pretty much out of mana. Maybe one more Shockwave in time. If he can get one more Shockwave without getting hit by a guard tower, there goes another round of units, as the Farseer could have really used a Potion of Mana and try and chain lightning some of these units down over here. Speed Scroll being used, and all of those units will be backing off. Kodo Beast easily eats up a Spellbreaker and is now on the run. Beautifully done there, as we are now going to see a little bit of an engagement again. All right, what's going to be happening? Tauren Chieftain does have a Potion of Mana. Is he going to use the Potion of Mana and use the Potion of Healing? Water Elemental going to get taken down. There it goes. Level 3 as the Tauren Chieftain now trying to just rack up a counterattack here. A lot of Spellbreakers here. Tauren Chieftain could use that Potion of Mana. There it goes. There's the Shockwave, but doesn't really hit much of anything. He does hit the Archmage, but that's not a really safe call there, as we now see the summoned archers are engaging. All right, all the archers are in position. Tauren Chieftain still chasing after units. Archmage, not enough mana for a Water Elemental, sitting at level 3. Kodo Beast still digesting a Spellbreaker, and this looks like Yumiko should be able to finish off this fight here without much effort. All right, the Tauren Chieftain still trying to dive in a little bit too far. Tauren Chieftain now sitting at level 4, same as the Farseer, as the pressure is starting to mount up. 33 supply compared to most likely a 55 supply army. And with this is going to be the game. It looks as though Yumiko going to be able to take this series 2-1, and the casters just did not do enough. Yumiko able to do a very strong hold in that last fight at his base, and with that hold able to come back over the top, and it looks like he will be able to finish all the things up as a second Kodo Beast and starts digesting another Spellbreaker. And this is a really big difference. Now you take a look at the supply. His opponent's supply is really sitting at 27 since two Kodo Beasts are digesting Spellbreakers. And with that, that is pretty much going to be the GG, just waiting for it. There it is. There's the GG, as Yumiko takes this series 2-1. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.